plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Oh, for I know, the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Oh, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and the future, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and the future. Oh, Jeremiah 29:11. Oh, Jeremiah 29:11.
Hey New Hope Kids, and welcome to New Hope Kids Online. My name is Miss Brooke, and if you are in preschool or in kindergarten, then you are in the right place because this video is for you, my New Hope Nuggets. You're tiny but mighty, but also very, very special and very important. So this video is for you. I'm so glad you're here today because we're going to be starting a brand new unit today. We're going to be doing all through the whole month of March. It's called Blueprints. Do you guys know what a blueprint is? Well, when we talk about blueprints, we're usually talking about plans like to build something, like build a building or maybe a bridge or something like that. Now, you can also kind of think about it like if you get a new puzzle, then you're going to open it up and you're going to have a whole bunch of little pieces like this, right? Boy, it sure is hard to tell what that is, or I don't even know where that would go in the puzzle. But if we look at the plans on the box, like the picture on the front of the box, it's going to be a lot easier to put that puzzle together, right? They also do that with Legos. Have you ever gotten a new Lego set? And it's going to be so cool, but maybe there's a whole lot of pieces and you can see the picture on the box, but you really have to follow the instructions or the plans that are in the box to be able to put the Legos together exactly like the picture. Well, blueprints are kind of like that. They show us the plans of what things are supposed to look like. Now, the picture I have behind me, those are kind of what real blueprints look like. They have lots of measurements and lines and all kinds of stuff to help people build things like buildings. Now, the thing is, though, that God also has a plan for our lives. He has a plan for my life, and He has a plan for your life. In fact, He knows exactly what your life is going to look like. Those are His plans for you. So when we talk about blueprints, we're talking about the plans God has for our lives. So in our story today, we're going to be looking at the book of John. And we're going to be talking about this special time that God told Jesus to go to the city called Jerusalem. He went with his friends, and he went there to celebrate a really, really important holiday called the Passover. So we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute, but I want you to do a couple things while I'm telling this story. First of all, if you remember from our Bible verse, I think it was last month, we had the word God in our Bible verse. And if you remember the hand motion for God, we went like this, God. So I want you to do that. Every time you hear me say the word God, we're going to put our hands like that, God. Now I'm going to show you a new sign that has to do with our Bible verse this month, and that is plan or plans. So when I say plan or plans, you're going to take your hands like this, and you're like going to move them that way. So plan or plans. All right. So God, plans. All right. So remember that and do that when I say those words. Okay. So like I said, this happened a long time ago, and the Bible tells us that people used to travel to Jerusalem, to the city, because there was a big temple there. Now, a temple is sort of like our church, only way, way bigger. And it had like a courtyard in it and walls around it and different places in it that were really special. It was very, very important to the Jewish people because that's where they went to worship God. Remember? God. So they always would travel there to celebrate the holiday of Passover. Now, Passover was really important because it was part of God's plan. God's plan. If you remember, the people, the Hebrew people had been in Egypt for a really long time. Now, they had not been treated very well there. In fact, the Egyptian people were pretty mean to them, and they weren't allowed to leave for a very long time. So Passover was all about them celebrating how God had a plan to lead them out of Egypt. So Jesus came to Jerusalem for Passover, and he went to remember God's plan and to celebrate in the temple. Now, when Jesus got to the temple, he saw that there were a lot of things happening that were not part of God's plan. And this made Jesus so upset that Jesus started flipping over tables and getting really angry and yelling at the people that were in the temple who were doing bad things. They were not doing things that honored God. So now everybody kind of wondered why Jesus did all that. I mean, Jesus was really a nice guy, so they weren't used to seeing him so angry like this. But Jesus told them about the plans that God had, plans that were bigger than any of the plans that they had been making for themselves. In fact, Jesus told them that God had something in store that was even better than the temple. And that was because he knew the plans that God had for him. Now, this was really confusing to the people because they thought the temple was bigger and more special than anything that they could possibly imagine. But they didn't know that God had a better plan. So the people thought the temple was the best, but God wanted them to know that Jesus was even better than the temple. And one day Jesus was going to die, but after 3 days, he was going to come back to life. Now, what Jesus said came true, of course, and we're going to be learning more about that as we get closer to Easter. But after Jesus came back to life, the disciples would remember what Jesus had said on that day in the temple, and they came to believe in God's plan. And in fact, that God had a plan all along. And you know what that reminds me of? It reminds me that God's plans are perfect.
Watching this really cool video about construction, and I learned so many new things. Do you know what these vehicles are called? This one is called a bulldozer. It pushes dirt and rocks around. What about this one? This is a crane. It's really tall, and it helps lift and move things around. Okay, last one. This is called an excavator. Excavators are used for digging. I thought to myself, I really wouldn't mind being a builder, but I love to sing too. So I wouldn't mind being a singer also. They have the coolest jobs. Singers, if you're good, can travel the world singing and tour with famous people. They also get lots of gifts and flowers and fans. Or what about the president? I kind of think I could be a great one. I can make the world a better, more loving place, or I could be the person who decides what the national holidays are. I'd really like to have more days where we celebrate things like donuts and ice cream. There are so many things we can do and become. How about you? What do you want to learn about while you're growing up? Because I really want to learn about a lot of different things. I have an idea. Let me call my buddy Gavin.
Oh, hey, Callie.
Hey, Gavin. What are you up to?
I'm playing video games with my little brother. How about you?
I'm here trying to decide what I want to learn first, to get ready for growing up and stuff.
You do love to act. Maybe you can be an actress.
Maybe. I'm so confused. What do you want to do when you grow up?
I think I want to be an astronaut.
Oh, wow. That's so interesting. Maybe I can learn about space with you. How do you think we need to plan to become astronauts? There must be some steps on the internet somewhere.
Oh, but I'm not sure. I was getting ready to read a Bible story. Maybe it would give us some clues about where to start. My Grammy always told me the Bible has the greatest plans in it.
Sounds good to me. Let's hear it.
It's time for our Bible story. Today we will learn about a festival that the Jewish people held to celebrate the time when they were freed from being held captives as slaves and forced to work for the Egyptians. It's called Passover.
How long were they captive?
It probably lasted for about 70 years, so someone could have lived a whole life and never been free to choose what they would do with their life. Rescue was a big deal to them. They celebrated how God created a plan for their freedom and rescued them from being stuck in Egypt.
So they probably know about following a plan.
They sure do. They didn't always like the plan, and they didn't always follow it either. But when they did, when they trusted God with the plans that promised their freedom, they found a way out.
They probably dance and have lots of fun.
You bet they do. They celebrated then, and they celebrated now. When Jesus was celebrating Passover, Jesus noticed some of the ways that the people had started to ignore God's plan again. Sometimes it upset him to see this happening. During one Passover, Jesus was there and noticed how things in the temple didn't match God's plans.
Oh no! How did they get off track?
There are people in the temple courts selling animals that people could use as offerings. Jesus was so upset because people were being greedy and trying to make money off of people who were coming to the temple to worship.
Yikes, what did Jesus do?
Jesus flipped over the tables in the temple courts and told the people to leave. He even drove the animals away.
Oh wow, Jesus was angry.
The people were wondering what right Jesus had to do this. Jesus showed that he was sent by God by saying that if they destroyed the temple, he would rebuild it in 3 days.
All by himself in 3 days?
Jesus was actually talking about himself and the bigger and better plans God had for them. That one day, Jesus would die and after 3 days come back to life so that God's plans could work for everyone to be reconnected and forgiven.
That sounds like a good plan.
Jesus knew the plan all along, and it was a much better plan than we could have created on our own. Like the blueprints a builder uses to manage the construction of something new, God has plans too.
Wow, Callie, that story was really amazing.
It really was. I learned a lot too.
You tell me what you learned first, and I'll tell you what I learned.
Okay, I learned that maybe I don't need to rush to decide on what I want to do when I'm grown up. Your turn.
I learned that God had a good plan for the people of Israel, and God has a good blueprint for us too. Every day is a new chance to look for clues and discover God's plan.
Wow, Gavin, you are smart and really wise. Talk later?
Sounds great. Bye, Callie.
That was an amazing story, right, friends? I think it's best for me to keep growing, and when the time is right, God will tell me what to do, because God's plans are perfect, and I can always build on what I'm learning. I'll still dream of doing amazing things, like a president or even a lawyer maybe, but hey, I'm still young, and you are too, friends. Catch you next time. Gotta go play with my friends outside. Thanks for watching and growing with me. Peace out.
Wow, that is so awesome. Sometimes I get feeling like, oh, I don't know if I'm following the plans the right way. I mean, when you're into that puzzle or that Lego set, are there times where you're like, oh, I don't know if I'm doing this right? But if we just keep going and trust those plans, it's going to come out okay. And that's kind of how it is for God too. I have to trust his plans for me and know that he sees that whole big picture of my life and he's got it together. So sometimes I just kind of have to trust him and know that he's going to take me where he wants me to be with my life. And, you know, we've all been given plans to follow sometimes. And it's so important to follow them, especially when you don't know what might happen next. Because remember, God's plans are perfect. So we have a brand new series and a brand new month, which means we have a brand new Bible verse, you guys. Now this one is Jeremiah 29:11, and some of the signs you already know. So let's think about a few of them. So let's see. First of all, if we're going to say I in something, just going to point to ourselves, right? Now, know, like in I know something, is I, and we're going to take our hands like that, and we're just going to point right to our head with our fingers. No. So I know. Can you do that? I know. Plans, we already said. We put our hands like this, and we scoot it over. Plans. You, if we're saying something about you, we're going to point at the person we're talking to, right? So it starts out, for I know the plans I have for you. Now the next word is Lord. If you guys remember how to do Lord, we're going to take our hands in an L like that. We're going to put them here, and we're going to go like this. Lord, Lord. Okay? All right. Let's start from the top, okay? For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. All right. Now plans again. We got plans a bunch of times in this verse. So plans to prosper you. Now prosper is a word. It's kind of a weird word. You might not hear a whole lot, but really it just means things that are going to not only be good for us, but make us be better in the long run. So plans to prosper you, plans to make us better and to benefit us and help us. Those are the plans that God has for us. So plans to prosper you. Now for prosper, we're going to go like this. Prosper, we're going to do, it's almost like a smile. So we're going to do like this little thing like this, like kind of a curly smile, because prosper is good, right? So prosper you. Okay. So let's start from the beginning. Okay. So for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Harm, we're going to put our fingers together. That means like to hurt or to harm. God's never going to have plans. They're going to hurt us. And the last one is plans again, to give you a hope. Now, hope we've done before. Hope goes like this. Hope. And a future. Future just means looking ahead at what's in our lives, right? So for future, we're just going to take our hand like this and go like that, like future, like what's ahead of us, like going straight ahead. Okay. So let's go ahead and put those things together. All right. Again, this is Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future. Good job, guys. Keep practicing those every day, and we will do them again together next week. All right. So let's pray together, okay? Let's say, dear God, thank you so much that we can trust that you have a plan for our lives. Thank you for loving us, and thank you for teaching us how you want us to be, and for directing us so that we can live out your plans the way you have for us. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, Nuggets, that's all I have for you today. I hope you had a great time here at New Hope Kids Online, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next week. Bye.